Okay, here's a video on the Projects Panel, which you can find right here. The first thing you need to realize is that when you first install JewelBeetle, there's no projects created yet. And actually what you want to ensure is the place on your hard drive that you want to store your projects. So if you click the gear right here, this is the preferences, and you can see the default is whatever user you're on. So here's my users, Kent. Documents, JewelBeetle Projects. So this is the default location. If you do not change it, then that's where your projects will be stored, and that's fine. That's a good place. It is on my C drive, and a lot of people use a D drive, perhaps that's bigger. So you need to ensure that you have enough space on whatever drive that you're going to choose. For this example, I'm going to leave it in just the default, but I'm going to pop around and change it to where I have mine as well. And mine are on a Dropbox folder, so that every time I create and save a project, it goes up to the cloud and it's backed up. So you can use OneDrive, Google Drive, any drive, Dropbox drive, whatever you're comfortable with. Or if you have some other way of backing up, that's okay too. So the first thing that we want to do is create a new project. And to do that, you click the folder with a plus, which is Create New Project. So this is Tutorial. Okay, so now you can see that I have a project tutorial created, and here it is. Okay, so if we click on the blue bar here, it will open up and it'll show all of your projects. Okay, so we consider tutorial a project, and then each one of these black squares, which is where you'll save each file, is called a job bag. Just like on your bench, you have a job bag with a ring and a card in it and so on, and so this is the same idea. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to click outside here, which will close it. So if you open this and you want it to go away, simply click anywhere else. I'm going to go ahead and create one called Test as well. That way we have two to work with. So now if I want to save in Test, I can do that. Or I can come over and go back to Tutorial, and you can see that it changes right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and learn how to save items in a job bag. So I'm going to go ahead and start out with some real basics here. I'm going to make a torus, perhaps my favorite because it's shaped like a donut, and who doesn't like donuts? And so we'll go ahead and put something on this layer and something on this layer. Okay. Now there's two ways to save a job bag. There's an export type method, which you use the orange button for. That's labeled export. That's just like you select an item in Rhino and then go up to File and say Export Selected, and save it somewhere on the hard drive. Except for we just simplify that, and when you click on one item and hit the orange button, then it exports that as a file, and there it is. So the only thing that got saved in this job bag is this sphere. If I select all three and click the orange button, then all three are put into that job bag. Now, if we were to turn off layer 3, and then I select these two and put them in a job bag with the orange export button, if we were to close the program or hit File New, then this object would be lost because it's on a layer that's turned off and it's not saved here. Of course, it's saved over here. But that's the whole idea of export. The whole idea is for you to quickly be able to grab certain parts that you want to ensure are saved during the project and get them in a job bag. You can use them later on for another project, or perhaps if you want more of these items out here, you can click on the image and it will import another copy, so it imports them. So if you export, you import. Now, let's say that our project is done. So this is my project, it's finished, this is my final one, and I would then perhaps hit the save button. So the blue is save as, okay? And so when I click that, it says, hey, this successfully saved, here's the path, okay? And it has the word full after it. The other thing that you should notice is that it has a little blue triangle down in the corner. So in order to look at all our job bags, okay, you can use this scroll bar right down here. And you'll notice that in JewelBeetle, every time we add a new job bag, we actually move the old ones over, and that way always at the beginning or the far left of the tutorial project, in this case, your most recent save is always at the front, okay? So the whole idea is, let's say we have some curves out here too. So there's some curves, maybe these are some creation curves and so on, and I'll expand on this and show when I save as export and when I save as a full save. But let's say we have some curves there and maybe another curve here, and during the whole process maybe we have a bunch of curves and a bunch of surfaces that were used to get to the final output. Well, if a lot of those curves are on layers that are turned off, or maybe something that's even hidden, and this is our final item, and we hit full save, okay, well, let's hit file new now, okay, so there we go, we have a brand new. If I go back, and I was missing that bar, is what I was doing. If I go back and import these pieces, it doesn't prompt me about anything because it's an import. But if I come over here and I click the blue button to load this one, or click just the image itself too, either one, it prompts me to save because I have items here that are not saved, okay? And it's up to me to either hit cancel and save what I'm doing, or if I don't need them, knowing that they're perhaps in a job bag, then I say no, I don't want to save it, and then it opens this file right here. Well, if you recall, I had some layers turned off, okay, and I had an object hidden. So that's how the export and open or full save work. So orange button is export import, and blue is full save, and then of course when you click the image here, if I click this one, it's going to prompt me to save this again because I turned on layers and so on. If I say no, then it opens this file. And on this one, there's nothing hidden and nothing turned off. Okay, so let's talk more about what's going on in here and the rest of the menu. Okay, right up here we have refresh. If you happen to save or move other files inside the tutorial, in this case tutorial project folder, then you may need to refresh it to show it. And I'll come back to this, and when I have a more complicated job bag row, I'll put something in there as an example, and then I'll show you why the refresh is important. If you want to look at what files are in this tutorial project, you can click right here, which is open the project in Windows Explorer. So if I click that, you can see that we're in Documents, JewelBeetle Projects, and in the tutorial folder, and there's my test folder. So this just takes you out to Windows so you can see what's going on, and we can go View, Large Icons, and that should look familiar. Okay, so there's Refresh, go to Windows Explorer folder, and here's Create New Project. Okay, if we expand this out, we can also manage our projects. So let's right click on Tutorial. Here's another way to browse this folder. So you can go here, you'll notice it's the same icon here. If we click Browse, we come back to that location. All right, two ways to do that. You might want to browse, right from within here. Okay, if we right click again, we can rename. If you say, oh, this was the wrong job number, or I want to add more information to it, or so on. We can say tutorial working, okay? And when I hit OK, well, now this is renamed tutorial working, and if we come over here, there you go. Okay, we can delete a whole project itself. We can delete the whole thing. If we're done with that, I don't think I want to delete that one yet, but test has nothing in it, and maybe I have no reason for test, and so I can click delete, and it says, hey, are you sure you want to delete test and all of its files? Yes. Okay, so now it's gone for good. Okay, let's get another one here, and we'll call this one test again. Okay, so now if we come back here, let's right click again, and we can say hide. Okay, so here's the scenario. We have a project, we're all done with that project, it's been cast, it's been finished and sold, and the customer of course was very happy, and we don't want to get rid of it, especially perhaps it's an engagement ring and someday we're going to build a wedding band for it, or whatever. But the idea is that you may not want it to show up in your list of projects because eventually you'll have a lot. So what you can do is you can hide it. Now, the file's still there. It's just not showing up in the list. So if we come over here and right click and say browse, you'll see that tutorial working is certainly still there. Okay, it's just hidden. Okay, so let's say it's 6 months down the road, customer comes back in, wants to build something to go with that. Okay, well, if we come up here and we would go up to this folder right here, which is show hide hidden projects. Okay, so if we click that, then you see that it has an eyeball with a slash through it, meaning it's hidden. Okay, so if we right click on that, then we can say show, and now it's shown again. So that's what this button here does, is show hide hidden. So again, if we come here, right click and say hide, to look at all the hidden, you might have a whole bunch of hidden ones. You click here, it'll show if it's hidden with this icon, right click it and say show. Okay. The next thing I want to show, that takes us down from hide to show, is renumber. Okay, the only reason renumbering isn't all that important. Here's why we added this feature though. Let's say that in the course of building this, I'm like, oh, I don't need this one. I've got them here. I've got too many things to manage, and I want to get rid of some of them. So you click the X, and it says, hey, do you want to delete job bag number 2? Yes, I do. Okay. Well, if we come back now, my job bags are now 0, 1, 3, 4. You might have 30 job bags and you might have deleted 10 of them, okay? And so in order to just renumber them and have them in that order, you simply right click here and say renumber. And now it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, and as if that job bag was never there. So you might have a folder or a project that is, recent work that you maybe stepped through to show a customer or something. And over time, you may not want some of those in there. You might want to put new ones in. So you can, for whatever reason, you can delete, and then if you want to, you can renumber them and get them all back into numerical order. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and switch my project's location to where mine all are so that I have a whole bunch more to work with. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, so now I've got my projects loaded here, and here I'm on this number here. And so if I click the blue, you can see I've got a bunch more rings and pendants and stuff. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on up across here, okay? Number one, over here on the right, you can change the size of the thumbnails by sliding this if you want to get a better view of something. Maybe you have some where they're very similar, this version, this version, this version. And so to be able to see them bigger, you can slide that over and then scroll through them. Okay, otherwise if you want to see more, obviously you would make them smaller. Now, across the top, we can control what you see in here, and I have certain files in here that will be revealed as I click through here, okay? Now, job bags, if you recall at the beginning of this video, I had orange exports and I had blue file save as, okay? Both of those are job bags, whether they have a blue arrow and it's a full save, or if it's not got a blue arrow, which means it's an import export, okay? So if you have it on job bags, you see blue arrows, okay, and I only have one in here just for an example. So that would be a full save. So if you want to see all the full saves, you can switch it to that. If you want to see all just exports, you can switch it to that. So you can see that these would all be imported or added to the viewport. Okay, if you have any renders or inspiration pictures for the project that maybe you're using, maybe a drawing, then in here I have pictures, okay? And if I click on this, it will actually open because it's a JPEG, okay? All right, so let's go back. If we go to other, I don't have any images in here that qualify as other. Let's go to miscellaneous. In miscellaneous, we have a PDF and an STL, okay? So the whole time that you're working, you create your ring, you have all your different exports or full saves, and then eventually when the project's done, you'll export it for 3D printing, and you can save that STL right in the folder. Okay, now other would be a full save that you do on your own. Okay, so you might want to come in here. Let's go ahead and I'm going to hit File New so that there's nothing else going on in here, and I'll give you an example of so let's go ahead and just bring this ring out, and here's the ring done. And I might want to save this without any gems in it. Like I'm going to send this out maybe to a service bureau to be 3D printed. And perhaps they want a 3DM that's NURBS based and not an STL, so that they can use their own settings for the STL. Okay, so in this case I'm also going to sell all the curves, okay, and delete those, and this is it. This is what I want to send out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to File, Save Small As, and you can see that I'm in this F30 whatever job bag, and this is job to print. Okay, and so that's the file that I want to save there. And here's where the refresh button comes in, because now when I come over here and I go to Other, there's nothing there. But if I come over here and refresh the job bag and then come back and go to Other, there is my job to print 3DM. Okay, so I have miscellaneous, PDFs, STL, maybe an AI, Adobe Illustrator, if you have some 2D artwork or something. Other is other 3DMs. Okay, and if it's a two-tone, maybe you have job to print yellow, job to print white, and so on. So that falls outside what you want it called in the job bag. There's pictures. Again, exports is just the orange save button, full saves, blue button, that'll be a file open. Job bags, it's all of them. Okay, and if you want to see absolutely everything, all of these categories, you would click All, and then as you see over here, we have absolutely everything that's been saved in here, including job to print and so on. Okay, the last part of this, I think, that I haven't shown is search, and there's two different search bars. There's one for searching inside the job bags of a particular project, in this case F390048, or there's a search over here which searches for projects in here. Okay, so here's an example of searching inside this project folder. And if you recall, well, maybe you don't, but I had an STL that was called 3-stone ring. So if I type 3, there's my 3-stone ring STL, so I can search there. Maybe I have one that says file for print or something, and if I just type print, then I'll see all the STLs that I have for printing in there. Or I know that my PDF was called F6, okay, F603 blah blah blah, so there's that file. If you backspace that out and then just go back to job bags, you can see everything back here again. Now, if you want to search for projects, maybe you have Mrs. Jones that's been in and she's got Mrs. Jones pendant, ring, this, that. Well, I don't really have a Mrs. Jones, but I do have a bunch of projects that I did in developing JewelBeetle. Okay, so if I type JB right here, I have JewelBeetle, I have auto flow testing and cutters and diamond cuts and blah, blah, blah. So at any given time, I can just click here and here's some cutters, okay? And so if you want to get back to your full job bags, then you would go ahead and click here and you'd backspace this out. And then you would be taken back to all the job bags or projects that are here. So this is to search for projects, this is to search within a project, and I think I've gone over all these buttons. So that leaves me with an example that I wanted to show you earlier when I said, hey, you might need the refresh button. Okay, so if we go over here again and look at pictures, okay. All right, I have 4 pictures in here. Let's say that I'm starting a new project and I have some drawings or some pictures of something that I'm going to create this day. Okay, so let's go get a picture off the internet. So here's the internet. I did a search for engagement rings. Here's an engagement ring. I'm going to click it. I'm going to right click this and say save image as, and this is make this ring. Okay, so that's going into that same project that we've been working with all this time. So I hit save. Okay, so then I come back to my project and I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go ahead and look at that picture, or maybe load it in here so I can be inspired by it. And I come over to pictures and it's not there. So that's because the project's already created, we're already in the project, and that is a time where you would hit refresh. Okay, so now we refresh it, come back over here, and lo and behold, here's make this ring. Okay, like I say, you can open it or whatever you want to do. If I click it, then it opens. And so there's a good time that you would use the refresh. Here's another little hint. The refresh button certainly works. The other thing you could do is if you jump over to a different project and then jump back, that's the same thing as hitting refresh as well. Just a little. Either one, whatever one you think of is fine. So there you go. That is how the projects work, and how to search, and how to limit what you display, and how to save or export import, and there you go.